Hey guys, Dr. Ben here. Welcome to a Power Pack Brokerpreneur Byte. Get ready to dive into proven strategies for recruiting top talent, retaining your best agents, and skyrocketing sales in the next 10 minutes. I'm your host, of course, Dr. Ben Spears, along with our real estate guru, Matt Vi. Join us as we unravel the secrets to take your brokerage to new heights. Let's dive in.
That person that wants to take that leap, that wants to take that step, that wants to say, listen, I fell down, So that actually kind of brings us to kind of the next piece of this, right? Which is the phases, right? Because there's different phases of what goes on in people's business, right? Being a brokerpreneur.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And those phases are ever evolving.
Absolutely.
Right. And so, Matt and I like to say that brokers and brokerpreneurs are always in transition mode.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
And so before,
not always forward.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say.
Okay. Sorry.
With those phases, right, they're ever evolving. It doesn't mean that, this is linear and you go from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 to phase 4. You may go from 1 to 4 and then back to 3 and then back to -2.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's just, but it's how do you keep growing? How do you keep evolving those phases in the right direction? That really helps you scale a business. So let's talk about those. Let's talk about those phases really quick.
Yeah, everything is threes to me, right?
Yep.
So we've talked about that. We've talked about that before. And we actually, so we designed our business, right? We knew the different phases that people would get into.
Yep.
And so we designed our business even before we came up with the brokerpreneur word, right? We've been doing this. I've been doing this for a while. This part, you've been doing the entrepreneurial stuff for a long time. So we knew people were going to go through those three phases, right? And so if you put it in a really almost a sterile context, right? There's birth, there's growth, and there's decline, right? You can break it up into more and everything, but that's that's the bottom the bottom line with it. These with real estate, it's not that simple. Those three exist in all of the phases that brokers are in their growth, right? Mm-hmm. So there's different pieces, and that's why the moving and transitioning is so complex,
right?
So there are people that are getting started, right? Just like real estate agents. Some real estate agents come into the business and they've got 5 or 6 people that are waiting on them, that are listings and all that kind of stuff, and they take off, right?
Yep.
That is really dangerous. Yes. Okay. And so the reason why is because they end up learning business in a way that is not realistically what's going to happen with their whole career.
Correct.
Okay. And so it's also dangerous though if they get into the business and they don't have any, and all they do is training for the first 19 months, right?
Very good point.
That's also dangerous, right? So there has to be a balance between the two. A brokerpreneur is the same way, right? So whenever they get in the business, you do have to have some people that maybe want to join your office. You do have to have kind of an idea of what it is that you're doing, but it's really dangerous if day one you have 96 people in your office. And you don't have any experience as a broker.
Yeah, no structure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so because what's going to happen is your reputation is going to be built by what happens with that, right?
Yep.
So the first phase is kind of that growth and that transition from being an agent to being an actual broker. Okay? And then the second phase is when you're actually that broker.
Okay.
You're actually realizing that there's a lot of facets to your business, and you start working on those facets of your business. You start figuring out that there's other pieces to it, right? So this is an example of it, okay? But this isn't exactly all of them. So if you're a broker, right, you can your agents can make money through residential sales, but you can also have property management, right? You can have a commercial department or a commercial guy that does that. You can have auction divisions and all that kind of stuff. And there might be different licensing depending on the state that you're in with all of this. But the bottom line is there's different parts to your business,
right?
From where you can generate revenue. Now, as a broker, though, just like there's different parts with that, there's different pieces to what you do. So there's training. You have to have training in your brokerage, right? You got to have technology in your brokerage. You have to understand marketing in your brokerage and public relations in your brokerage. So there's a bunch of different pieces to what you do. That second phase is you really understanding those different pieces and figuring out which ones are best culturally for you. Which ones fit, for lack of a better way of putting it?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's top to bottom, right? So you mentioned all those things, right? You got to have your technology, you got to have your training, you got to have your people in a sense. Mm-hmm. When we talk about culture, right? Because that's not someone else's job, right? Like you're like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a brokerpreneur, right? I just
Can't wait to hire somebody that'll bring culture.
Yeah, exactly. I only want to focus on like growing the business. I only want to stay blah 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 blah. That culture is just as much your responsibility. And whenever you add tools, or whenever you add people, or however you stack up your training, or schedule your training, or deliver your training, right? Those all need to be consistent across the board.
Yep.
And that's where exactly the point that you were making. If you open your door on day one and you've got 96 agents in there, but you've had your broker's license like for 24 hours,
right?
And
somebody says, "How do I turn a file in?"
That's exactly right. There's no way, right? Depending on what phase you're in, I guess. Maybe you had your broker's license, you let it go, and now you're back getting your broker's license. Maybe that would be a different thing. But
right.
There's no way, like starting in that infancy or that birth or that beginning phase, that you just have all those pieces in place, and know that growth doesn't just come from the number of agents, or even necessarily the number of dollars,
right, or the productivity. That's right.
Yep.
Right. So I know a bunch of brokers that went out, got their license, had a couple of friends that were really productive friends. They started rolling in the money really, really quickly, and then the next thing you know, those guys aren't friends anymore, right?
Yeah.
So people are leaving, and things that propped you up financially, that allowed you to make stupid errors and still stay profitable, those things go away.
Yeah.
So that's that middle phase, right?
Absolutely.
The third phase is you've got all that kind of figured out with your business, right?
Yep.
And this is this is where franchise systems kind of help out a lot. Not that you have to have a franchise system for this, but this is a big part of what they attempt to offer. They attempt to offer structure so that brokers know how to focus on, so they have the time and know how to focus on different parts of their business to allow them to grow. Okay.
Yeah.
Not that independents can't do it. Not that, right. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. Right. But that's what franchises believe that they offer in the situation. Okay?
Right.
And so that's
like turnkey.
Right. Like turnkey.
That's what they're trying. Yeah.
Right. They're basically saying, hey, here's all the things you need to think of.
Yeah.
Right. This is all the pieces. And by the way, we have some support for you in all of those pieces.
Yeah. Tools, systems.
Right. Instead of you just figuring out which software to use and which.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Or which 6 softwares to use.
That's exactly right.
Right. And how they play well together.
Or don't.